My name is Aria, and I was 15 when my mom left me stranded at the airport. I can still see her shrug as she handed me $200 and walked off with her new husband and his kids. That moment at gate 24 broke my heart and changed how I saw family and love. But that painful betrayal led me to uncover truths about my past that transformed my life. Before I share how I went from being left at gate 24 to finding my true family, tell me where you're watching from and give this a like. You'll want to stick around for what happened when my mom came home to find my room empty. My early memories with my mom were full of joy. I loved our weekend trips to the park, where she'd push me on the swings until I giggled with excitement. For my 6th birthday, she made a wobbly chocolate cake and hung homemade streamers in our small apartment. We didn't have much, but we had each other, and that felt like enough. Everything shifted when I was 8. I came home from school to find my parents sitting far apart on our old couch. The air was thick as they told me they were divorcing. Their vague explanation, "Sometimes adults stop loving each other," left me confused and hurt. That night, I cried myself to sleep, hugging my stuffed rabbit as their muffled arguments echoed through my bedroom wall. My mom got primary custody, and my dad slowly vanished from my life. Our weekends together dropped from every other week to once a month, then to short, awkward phone calls. By age 10, he was just a name on my birth certificate and a fading memory. Life with just my mom wasn't easy. She worked 2 jobs, waitressing by day, cleaning offices at night, to keep us going. I got used to microwave dinners and letting myself into our apartment with a key around my neck. Despite the struggles, our routine felt steady. I knew the rules and never doubted I was the center of her world. At 13, things changed again. My mom met Richard, a rich businessman who tipped big and always sat in her section at the restaurant. I still remember her glowing as she described his fancy suit and how special he made her feel. Their romance moved fast. Within 6 months, he proposed with a huge diamond ring that looked out of place on her tired hand. Before I could get used to having a stepdad, we moved into Richard's huge suburban mansion. It had a pool, a home theater, and more bathrooms than I could count. His 3 kids from his last marriage came with the house. Olivia, 14, always looked down on me. Jackson, 12, barely noticed me. Zoe, 10, seemed friendly at first, but that faded once we all lived together. Right away, I felt out of place in this new family. Richard was polite but saved his real warmth for his own kids. Family dinners were awkward, with talk of private schools, country clubs, and vacation homes, things I knew nothing about. When I tried to join in, my comments about school or books got polite nods before the focus shifted back to my step-siblings' wins in tennis, debate, or piano. Watching my mom change hurt the most. The woman who once clipped coupons and shopped sales now talked about designer brands and fancy restaurants. She dyed her hair, whitened her teeth, and called our old life the struggle years, with a nervous laugh around Richard's friends. It felt like she was erasing her old self, and me along with it. I tried hard to connect with my step-siblings. I offered to help Olivia with math, praised Zoe's drawings, and asked Jackson about his video games. They brushed me off, sometimes rudely. I'll never forget overhearing Olivia tell her friends on the phone that her dad's new wife came with baggage, meaning me. When summer came, Richard planned a family trip to Bali, 2 weeks at a fancy resort with private villas and butlers. Despite feeling distant from my mom, I got excited. Maybe this trip would help us bond as a family, away from school and daily stress. My hopes faded when my mom took my step-siblings shopping for new vacation clothes but left me out. When I asked why, she said I had enough clothes, even though mine were old compared to Olivia and Zoe's designer bikinis. I used my babysitting money to buy a plain blue swimsuit. A week before the trip, I overheard my mom and Richard talking behind their slightly open bedroom door. "What about arrangements for Aria?" Richard asked quietly. "All taken care of," my mom said dismissively, making my stomach twist. She won't be a problem. When I asked her later, she waved it off with, just trip details, honey, don't worry. The morning we left was chaotic but exciting. Suitcases were packed into Richard's luxury SUV. I noticed my passport wasn't with the travel papers on the counter, but my mom said it was in her purse and rushed me along. Looking back, I missed the signs, her avoiding my eyes on the drive, no one mentioning my seat on the plane while they argued over window seats, my suitcase being smaller than the others. At 15, I so wanted to belong to this family that I ignored the warnings in my head. The international terminal was a whirlwind of travelers, suitcases, and stressed airline staff. Richard led us through the crowd, my mom by his side with her designer bag. Olivia, Jackson, and Zoe followed, their faces glowing with excitement. I lagged behind, pulling my small suitcase. At the check-in counter, Richard handed over 5 passports, not 6. My heart sank as boarding passes went to everyone but me. "Excuse me," I said, stepping up to the counter. "I think you missed my boarding pass." The airline worker frowned, puzzled. "This reservation only lists 5 passengers." Richard coughed lightly. "Your mom needs to talk to you. We're heading to security." As he and my step-siblings rolled the luggage away, my mom pulled me to a quiet spot by a gift shop. Her face was cold, almost annoyed, unlike anything I'd seen before. "Listen, Aria," she said, her voice too calm. "Plans changed. You're not coming to Bali." Her words hit me like a punch. "What? Why? Did I do something wrong?" She sighed, glancing at Richard and his kids by the security line. "Richard wants this trip to be just for us and his children, to bond as a family." "But I'm your family," I said, my voice breaking. "I'm your daughter." "Don't make a scene," she snapped, digging in her purse. She shoved $200 into my hand. "Take an Uber home. You'll manage." I stared at the cash, stunned. "You're leaving me here alone? I don't even have a house key." She shrugged, a gesture that would haunt me for years. "Mrs. Peterson next door has the spare. You're mature enough." Tears filled my eyes as the truth sank in. "Mom, please, you can't do this." She glanced nervously at Richard. "This trip matters for our future, Aria. We all make sacrifices." "A sacrifice is skipping a concert, not abandoning me," I said, anger cutting through my shock. She flinched but brushed it off. "Don't be dramatic. It's only 2 weeks. The fridge is stocked, and there's pizza money in the drawer." She gave me a quick, cold kiss on the forehead. "I'll call when we land." She walked away, her heels clicking on the tile, joining Richard and his kids. I stood frozen, watching them pass through security. My mom never looked back. Olivia smirked at me before they vanished. The $200 crumpled in my shaking hand as the airport buzzed around me, people rushing, families hugging, announcements blaring. But for me, time stopped as my mom's betrayal hit hard. Tears poured out, hot and unstoppable, as I collapsed onto a bench. A few people glanced my way, curious or concerned, but no one stopped. A crying teen in an airport was easy to ignore. I sat in a daze for an hour, watching their flight status change from boarding to departed. Each update stabbed deeper. I called my mom's phone over and over, but it went to voicemail. My texts went unanswered. Furious, I typed, "Enjoying the airport? Hope leaving your kid was worth the first-class seat." No reply came. I pictured her sipping champagne beside Richard, free of me. As evening fell, my situation felt dire. A security officer approached me in the food court, where I sipped a soda to justify my seat. "You okay, miss?" he asked, part suspicious, part concerned. "You've been here a while." My ride stuck in traffic, I lied, avoiding his gaze. He nodded, unconvinced, but left after warning me to watch my bag. Humiliation hit me. How could I admit my own mom abandoned me? Shame and loyalty kept the words trapped. The airport grew quiet as shops closed. The $200 wouldn't last, and even if I got home, I'd be alone for 2 weeks with no car or extra cash. In the bathroom, I splashed cold water on my puffy face, trying to make a plan. The girl in the mirror looked broken, her eyes red and lost. That's when I knew, the trust one had in my mom, the belief she'd always protect me, was gone forever. 6 hours after she left, I wandered from bench to bench, watching happy families head off on adventures. My loneliness grew with every hour. My phone battery was dying, adding to my panic. By 8 p.m., I sat at a restaurant counter, ordering fries to stretch my money. The server, Gloria, had kind eyes. She studied me as she set down my food. "You okay, honey? You've been crying." I forced a weak smile. "Just a long day." She didn't push but soon brought a chocolate milkshake I hadn't ordered. "On the house," she said with a wink. "Chocolate always helps." Her kindness nearly broke me. I thanked her, choking back tears, and scrolled through my phone contacts, desperate for help. My options were few. Old friends had drifted away, and I had no close ones in Richard's neighborhood. I texted 2 of my mom's old friends. One didn't reply, the other was out of town. When my mom moved on to her new life, she left her old friends behind, just like our old apartment and cheap groceries. Then I saw his name, Dad. My heart raced. I hadn't spoken to him in over 3 years, not since an awkward call on my 12th birthday. My mom always said he didn't care, that he had a new family. "Your father's moved on," she'd say. "Some men aren't meant to be dads." I stared at his number, my thumb hovering. What if he rejected me, too? Another abandonment would crush me. In the bathroom, I locked myself in a stall and rehearsed what to say. "Hi, Dad, it's Aria. Been a while." Too casual. "Hello, this is Aria. I'm in trouble." Better, but not quite right. Desperation won. With shaky hands, I hit call and held my breath as it rang. Once, twice, 3 times. I nearly hung up when a deep voice answered, "Hello?" His voice, familiar yet strange, stole my words. "Hello, is anyone there?" he asked again. "Dad," I whispered, unsure. A pause, then, "Aria, is that you, sweetheart?" His concern broke me open. "Dad, I need help," I said, and the whole story spilled out: remarriage, the move, the airport, the $200, mixed with sobs, barely making sense. "She left you at the airport alone?" My dad's voice sharpened, shock turning to anger. "Where are you? Which airport?" I told him, expecting him to call social services or send money for a hotel. "Stay right there," he said firmly. "I'm coming to get you. It'll take me 3 hours. Can you stay safe until then?" "You're coming here?" I asked, stunned. "You don't have to. Maybe just help me get home." "Aria," he cut in, "I'm coming. Find the airline's customer service desk. Tell them what happened. I'll call ahead to make sure they look after you." After he hung up, I sat in the bathroom stall, reeling. My dad, who I thought didn't care, was dropping everything to save me. It felt too good to be true, and years of letdowns made me doubt hope. Still, I followed his instructions, heart pounding as I approached the customer service desk. The airline staff were kind, taking me to a private waiting area with a sandwich and juice. "This happens more than you'd think," the manager said softly. "Parents leaving kids to fend for themselves." The 3-hour wait dragged on, a mix of hope, fear, and exhaustion. What if Dad didn't show? What if he came but resented me? What if this was another rejection? Memories of him flickered, teaching me to ride a bike, his hands steadying me, reading bedtime stories with silly voices, building me a dollhouse one Christmas, his smile bright. If he loved me, why did he vanish? Why didn't he fight for me? These questions spun in my tired head as time crawled. I was dozing in an uncomfortable chair when the PA system crackled. Attention, please. Aria Williams to the information desk. My heart raced as I grabbed my suitcase and followed an airline worker. Instead of the main terminal, we went through corridors and security to a private area. Your father arranged to meet you here, the worker said, pointing to glass doors by the tarmac. Then I saw it, a sleek private jet, stairs lowered. A tall man in a suit stepped down, his profile familiar yet changed. My dad's dark hair had silver streaks, and he moved with new confidence. But his eyes, when they met mine, were the same, kind, crinkled at the corners. We stood frozen, staring across the distance. Then he hurried over, stopping just short of a hug, uncertainty on his face. Aria, he said, voice thick. I can't believe it's you. I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to run to him like when I was little. But the hurt teen, abandoned by both parents, held back. He saw it. I'm so sorry, he said softly, for not being there, for not fighting harder. His sincerity broke me. Tears I thought were gone came back. She said you didn't want me, I sobbed. That you moved on. His face darkened. Never true. Not one day. He opened his arms, and I stepped into them, crying out years of pain on his shoulder. We held on for minutes, both overwhelmed. When we pulled apart, he kept an arm around me, guiding me to the plane. Let's get you out of here, he said gently. We'll talk in the air. The jet's interior was stunning, leather seats, polished wood, soft lights. A flight attendant offered drinks and snacks. I stared at my dad, amazed. Is this your plane? He smiled, a bit shy. The company's. I'm CEO of Horizon Tech now. CEO? I echoed, shocked. Mom always said he could barely pay child support. It's been a good few years, he said, then got serious. Aria, I tried to reach you. Birthday cards, gifts, calls, years of them. When your mom remarried and moved, I lost you. Private investigators couldn't find you. Court filings got lost or delayed. My head spun as his words sank in. She kept you from me on purpose. He nodded, pain in his eyes. I sent child support every month, more than required. You never saw it, did you? I thought of our thrift store clothes, eating ramen for days, Mom's complaints about money. We were always broke, I whispered. She said you paid almost nothing. He handed me a folder from his briefcase, filled with cashed checks, court papers, and records of his efforts. The proof of Mom's lies was overwhelming. I'm not showing you this to hurt you, he said gently, but you deserve the truth. As the plane took off, leaving the airport behind, I felt lighter, like years of lies were falling away with each mile. Dad said he lived in Seattle, running a tech company he'd started. It grew huge after the divorce, beyond his dreams. I kept your room ready, he said, a bit embarrassed. Just in case. The flight went fast as we started reconnecting. There were awkward pauses and emotional moments, but beneath it, a real bond felt both new and familiar. When we landed, a car waited to drive us to Dad's home. I pressed my face to the window, watching fancy neighborhoods pass by until we turned onto a private road climbing a hill. The house came into view, a stunning glass sandstone mansion perched above the ocean. Home sweet home, Dad said, glancing at me with pride and a hint of nerves. I hope you'll feel at ease here. A woman named Linda greeted us at the door. I tensed, wondering if she was Dad's wife, but he introduced her as his assistant, who'd prepared for my arrival. Aria's room is ready, the blue one, she told him. Fresh towels in the bathroom, groceries in the kitchen, and security's updated. Dad thanked her, and she left with a warm smile my way. Dad showed me around the house, each room more gorgeous than the last. When we reached my bedroom, I froze in the doorway, struck by its thoughtfulness. Soft blue walls, huge windows with ocean views, a cozy queen bed, a desk, bookshelf, and a reading chair by the window. Then I saw the dresser, covered with items that stopped me cold. Are those? I stepped closer, words failing. Dad nodded, his face soft. Birthday and Christmas gifts. One for every year I couldn't reach you. I couldn't not get them. Wrapped presents for each age lined up neatly. Next to them was a photo album labeled Aria. My hands shook as I opened it, finding school photos, a clipping of my 6th grade award, a blurry shot of me leaving my old school. You tried to stay in my life, I whispered, the truth hitting me. Every single day, he said, voice rough. I'm here now, if you'll let me be your dad again. That first night, we ate takeout, too tired to cook. Talking came easier as exhaustion faded and food gave me energy. For the first time in years, I felt truly seen and heard. Crawling into the soft bed later, I was overwhelmed. My last thought before sleep was that maybe the airport wasn't an ending, but a new start I needed. I woke up confused by the soft bed and ocean waves below. Then yesterday's events flooded back. I sat up, taking in my room in morning light. Sunlight danced on the blue carpet through big windows. The luxury was a stark contrast to my old life. After a shower in the fancy bathroom, stocked with more toiletries than I'd ever owned, I put on yesterday's clothes and went downstairs. Dad was in the kitchen, struggling with pancakes. Morning, he said, grinning sheepishly at the lumpy pancake in the pan. My cooking hasn't improved since you were little. I smiled, remembering Sunday mornings when he'd make goofy-shaped pancakes while Mom slept. You made smiley faces with chocolate chips, I said, sitting at the island. His eyes lit up. You remember that? You were so young. Some things stick, I said, taking the plate. The pancakes tasted good, and breakfast felt normal, easing our awkwardness. After eating, Dad gave me a full tour. The grounds had perfect gardens and a path to a private beach. Inside, there was a gym, theater room, and an office with distracting ocean views. I have people for you to meet today, he said back in the living room, if you're ready. An hour later, I met Judith Bennett, a kind but professional lawyer in her 50s. Your mom's actions were legal abandonment, she said gently. Leaving a minor without care is illegal. There's also evidence of misused child support. I squirmed. I don't want to get her in trouble. I just want to be safe. I get it, Judith said. But we need legal protection for you to stay with your dad. Dad leaned in. It's your choice, Aria, but I'll fight for full custody if you want. The idea scared and freed me. Can I choose? You're 15, Judith said. Courts listen to kids your age, especially in cases like this. After Judith left, Dad showed me his office, filled with proof of his efforts to reach me, court filings, unanswered call logs, emails to my school. She threatened legal action if I contacted you, he said, showing a letter from Mom's lawyer 3 years ago, claiming I'd be upset. Each discovery hurt, revealing Mom's deliberate plan to keep us apart. Why? I asked. Just to cut you off. Dad sighed. It's complex. After the divorce, she struggled, partly my fault. When my company succeeded, she kept up the lie that I didn't care instead of admitting she blocked me. 2 days later, Mom called. I stared at her name on my phone, frozen by mixed emotions. You don't have to answer, Dad said softly. After 4 rings, it went to voicemail. A minute later, a message appeared. I played it on speaker, hands shaking. Aria, honey, it's a misunderstanding, Mom's voice chirped, too cheerful. I thought you knew you'd stay home. Richard said it'd teach you independence. I didn't abandon you, that's harsh. Call me back. Wi-Fi's bad here, but I'll check messages. Love you. Her lies made my stomach twist. There was no plan, no talk of independence, just abandonment. Typical, Dad muttered. She hasn't changed. I didn't call back. With Dad and Judith's support, I chose to stay in Seattle for good. Judith started custody filings, using evidence of Mom's actions and money misuse. Dad focused on practical stuff. You need clothes, school supplies, anything you want, he said. Want to shop today? The trip felt unreal. Used to thrift stores, I was shocked when Dad said to pick anything, no price checks. By day's end, I had new clothes, a laptop, and a phone with unlimited data, unlike Mom's stingy plan. That evening, on the deck with the ocean below, Dad and I finally talked deeply about the divorce. Why did you and Mom split? I asked, the question that had burned in me since I was 8. He paused, thinking. We wanted different lives. Your mom craved money and status. When my first business failed, she saw me as a letdown, not a partner hitting a rough patch. And you? I pressed. I wanted a real partner, someone who'd stand by me through tough times, not jump ship. His eyes were sad. Leaving you was the hardest part, Aria. Your mom used her custody rights to push me out, slowly cutting me off until I was gone from your life. Days passed, and we planned my future. Dad got me into Seattle's top private school for the fall. He also found a child psychologist to help me process Mom's abandonment and years of lies. Bit by bit, I started picturing a life where I was valued, not just tolerated. A week after arriving, Dad and Judith, the lawyer, suggested getting my things from Mom's house. She'd be in Bali another week, so we could legally enter since I was still a resident. You don't have to go if it's too hard, Dad said. I can handle it. But I needed to do this to close that chapter. I'm going, I said firmly. Some things there matter to me. We planned the trip like a mission. Flights were booked, legal papers ready, and movers hired. As the day neared, I kept rewriting a letter to Mom, struggling to put her betrayal and my choice to move forward into words. 3 days before Mom's return, Dad, Judith, her assistant, and I arrived at the house. I unlocked the door, stepping into a silent, unchanged space. It felt strange, like I was a visitor. For the first time, I noticed the wall photos, mostly Richard and his kids, Mom and a few, but almost none of me, none with her. Where's your room? Dad asked, his hand on my shoulder. I led him to the smallest bedroom, far from the master suite. It was plain, no frills like my step-siblings' rooms. This was yours? Dad's voice held shock at the bare space. It's fine, I said out of habit, trained to be grateful. He softened. No, sweetheart, you deserved better. With movers' help, I packed my things, clothes in wardrobe boxes, books in cartons. I took only what was truly mine or held meaning, leaving Mom and Richard's gifts behind. In a desk drawer, I found a forgotten box of keepsakes, old photos, Dad's early birthday cards, a teddy bear he gave me at 5. You kept these, Dad said, voice thick as I showed him. I never fully believed Mom's lies about you not caring, I admitted. Then, in my closet, behind shoes, I found a stack of envelopes in Dad's handwriting, bound by a rubber band. My hands shook as I opened one, a 13th birthday card with a note and an unused gift card. Each envelope held proof of Dad's efforts, cards for every birthday and Christmas, a letter with his Seattle address, photos of him at his company, hoping I'd visit. She hid these from me, I whispered, tears falling. I thought you forgot me. Dad hugged me tight. Never. Not one day. While movers worked, I went to Mom's office, needing to know why she kept Dad away. Judith said I could take my documents, so I searched her files. In a divorce folder, I found records of big child support payments Dad sent, not the scraps Mom claimed. There were also his blocked visitation requests and a letter draft to her lawyer, calling me a complication to manage for Richard's sake. By afternoon, packing was done. At my empty desk, I wrote Mom's letter. Dear Mom, I started, too raw for Mommy, too close for Mother. I poured out her betrayal, not just the airport, but years of making me feel unwanted. I told her I found the hidden letters and money records. I'm choosing Dad, I wrote, not for revenge, but because I deserve to be wanted. I don't hate you, but I have to love myself enough to leave. I left the letter on my bare mattress, the house key beside it, a final goodbye to that life. Walking out, I felt grief, relief, and resolve. Dad waited by the car, concerned. Done? He asked. I nodded, throat tight. He opened the car door, understanding my silence. Driving away, I didn't look back, only forward to my new future. Mom returned from Bali 3 days later. My phone lit up with frantic texts. Where are you? Why's your room empty? Call me now. This isn't funny. Come home. I talked to your dad's lawyer. How could you do this after all I've done? Please come home, sweetie. I miss you. Her words swung from anger to fake apologies. I showed Dad and Judith, who said to wait on responding until legal steps advanced. A week later, Mom showed up at Dad's house, somehow finding the address. Security cameras caught her SUV at the gate, her pressing the intercom repeatedly. You don't have to see her, Dad said. We can send her away. But I knew I had to face her, though not alone. I'll talk, I said, but I want you and Judith there. When Mom walked in, her face showed relief and anger fighting each other. She wore a pricey sundress, sunglasses perched in her perfect hair, a suburban princess. Aria, thank God, she said, reaching for a hug. I stepped back, and her arms fell. What's happening? Why'd you leave? Why were you with him? Her venom toward Dad made me wince. Let's talk inside, Dad said, his voice steady. In the living room, with Judith there as lawyer and witness, Mom's mask started to slip. Her eyes scanned the fancy room, taking in the wealth. So that's it, she laughed sharply. He lured you with luxury. I should have known. That's not why I'm here, I said, trying to keep my voice even. I'm here because you left me at the airport. Because you lied about Dad for years. Because I found the letters you hid. Her face froze, then hardened. You went through my things? How dare you? They were mine, I shot back. Addressed to me. You're 15, she snapped. Everything in my house is mine, including your mail. I was protecting you from his broken promises. Dad spoke up, calm but firm. No promises were broken, Karen. Just your efforts to erase me from Aria's life. You can't judge me, she hissed. You don't know what it was like raising her alone while you got rich. I sent child support every month, Dad said evenly, more than ordered. Money you spent on yourself while telling Aria we were broke. Mom's face reddened. That's a lie. I gave up everything for her. Even left her at an airport for your new family's vacation, Judith said, her calm tone cutting deep. That evening, as the sun dipped low over the ocean, casting a golden glow across the deck, Dad and I settled into comfortable chairs. The sound of waves crashing below created a soothing backdrop, but my mind was anything but calm. For the first time, I felt ready to dive into the past. Why did you and Mom really split up? I asked, my voice steady despite the years of wondering. The question had lingered in my heart since I was 8, a shadow that followed me through every family change. Dad paused, staring out at the horizon, his fingers tapping lightly on the armrest. He took a deep breath, gathering his thoughts like he was piecing together a fragile puzzle. It's simple on the surface, he said finally. We wanted different things from life. Your mom craved stability, financial security, social standing, the kind of life where everything looks perfect from the outside. When my first business venture crashed and burned, she didn't see it as a temporary setback. To her, I was a failure, not a partner she could ride out the storm with. I nodded, absorbing his words. It made sense, fitting the pieces of Mom's transformation after meeting Richard. And what about you? I prompted, leaning forward. What did you want? He turned to me, a sad smile tugging at his lips. I wanted a real partnership. Someone who'd stand by me through the highs and lows, not jump ship when things got rough. We were young, Aria, and maybe I wasn't the best at communicating that back then. But leaving you? That was never my choice. It tore me apart. Your mom used her custody rights like a weapon, chipping away at my visits until I was shut out completely. I fought it in court, but she always had a way of twisting things. His honesty hit me hard, stirring a mix of anger and relief. For years, I'd blamed him silently, believing Mom's stories. Now, the truth reshaped everything. We talked late into the night, sharing memories and regrets, the ocean's rhythm helping to wash away some of the old pain. As days turned into weeks, we started mapping out my future. Dad reached out to the top private school in Seattle, pulling strings to get me enrolled for the fall semester. He also lined up a child psychologist, someone specialized in helping teens like me unpack trauma. Our first sessions were raw. I cried a lot, reliving the airport moment, but slowly, I began to see a path forward. A life where I wasn't just surviving, but thriving, surrounded by people who truly valued me. One week after I'd settled in Seattle, Dad and Judith sat me down. It's time to get your things from your mom's house, Judith said gently. Mom was still in Bali, so we had a window to go in legally. I was still listed as a resident. No confrontation needed. You don't have to come if it's too much, Dad added, his eyes full of concern. We can handle it. But something inside me knew I had to face it. Closing that door myself was key to moving on. I'm going, I said, my voice firm despite the knot in my stomach. There are items there that mean something to me, old photos, keepsakes. I need to do this. We planned it meticulously, like a covert operation. Flights booked, legal papers in order to prove our right to enter, and a moving company ready to haul everything back. As the day approached, I spent nights drafting a letter to Mom. Words poured out, betrayal, hurt, the truth I'd uncovered. I revised it over and over, trying to strike a balance between raw emotion and finality. 3 days before Mom's scheduled return, we landed and drove to the house. Accompanied by Judith and her assistant, Dad, and I stepped up to the door. My key turned easily, but the silence inside was eerie, like the place was frozen in time. Walking through as a stranger was disorienting, the familiar layout felt alien now. For the first time, I really noticed the photos on the walls, Richard beaming with his kids, Mom smiling in a few, but me? Barely there. No shots of us together. It stung, confirming how sidelined I'd been. Where's your room? Dad asked softly, his hand steady on my shoulder. I led him upstairs to the tiniest bedroom, tucked at the hall's end, far from the luxury master suite. Opening the door revealed my sparse space, neat but plain, no decorations like the stepkids' rooms we passed, filled with gadgets and posters. This was yours? Dad's tone mixed disbelief and sorrow as he scanned the basic bed and desk. It's fine, I muttered automatically, years of being told to be grateful kicking in. He shook his head, expression tender. No, Aria, it's not. You deserved so much more. The movers arrived, and we got to work. Clothes folded into wardrobe boxes, books and school stuff into smaller ones. I was picky, leaving behind anything from Mom or Richard, clothes they bought to fit in, trinkets from awkward family events. I only packed what felt truly mine or held real sentiment. Digging through my desk drawers, I uncovered a forgotten box at the back, old family photos from before the divorce, a handful of Dad's early birthday cards, and the small teddy bear he'd given me for my 5th birthday, its fur worn from years of hugs. You kept these, Dad said, his voice catching as I handed him the box. Tears pricked my eyes. I never fully bought Mom's stories about you not caring, I confessed. Deep down, I held on to hope. Then, in my closet, hidden behind a line of shoes, I found a stack of envelopes tied with a rubber band, all in Dad's handwriting, addressed to me. My heart pounded as I opened the first, a card from my 13th birthday, with a sweet message and an unused gift card inside. One by one, I tore them open, each revealing Dad's unwavering love, cards for every missed birthday and Christmas, a letter with his new Seattle address begging for a call, photos of him at his company office with notes saying he dreamed of my visit. She hid all this from me, I whispered, tears streaming as the betrayal sank deeper. All those years, I thought you'd forgotten. Dad pulled me into a hug, strong and reassuring. Never, he murmured. Not for a single day. While the movers packed on, I slipped into Mom's home office, driven by a need for answers. Why go to such lengths to keep Dad away? Judith had said any documents about me were legally mine, so I rifled through the filing cabinet. In a folder marked divorce, the truth spilled out, records of hefty child support checks from Dad, far more than Mom ever admitted, funneled into a secret account. Court papers showed his repeated pleas for visitation, all shot down with Mom's made-up reasons, claims I was too fragile or didn't want to see him. The worst was a draft letter to her lawyer, timed around meeting Richard. It laid out a plan to minimize the ex's influence as she blended into her new life. I was called a complication to handle carefully, so Richard wouldn't bolt. My blood boiled. I wasn't a daughter to her, just an obstacle. By late afternoon, the boxes were loaded. I sat at my now bare desk and finalized the letter to Mom. Dear Mom, I began, the word feeling distant yet necessary. I spilled my heart. The airport abandonment wasn't isolated, it was the culmination of years feeling like an inconvenience. I detailed finding the hidden letters and financial lies, her campaign to erase Dad. I'm choosing to live with him now, I wrote toward the end, not out of spite, but because I deserve a place where I'm truly wanted. I hope you see the harm you've caused, to me and yourself. I don't hate you, but I have to choose self-love and leave. I placed the letter on the stripped mattress, the white paper standing out against the bare sheet. Beside it, I left my house key, a symbol of letting go. Walking out that door for the last time, a whirlwind of emotions hit, grief for what was lost, relief from the weight lifted, resolve for what lay ahead. Dad waited by the car, his face etched with worry. All set? He asked gently. I nodded, my throat too tight for words. He opened the door for me, no pressure to talk, and we drove off. I didn't glance back, my eyes fixed on the road forward, toward the life I could now build. Mom flew back from Bali 3 days later. My phone buzzed nonstop with frantic messages. Where are you? Your room's empty, call me now. This isn't funny, Aria. Come home immediately. I spoke to your father's lawyer. How could you do this to me after everything I've sacrificed? Sweetie, please come back. We can fix this. I miss you. Her texts looped through rage, guilt-tripping, and phony remorse, as predictable as her patterns. I shared them with Dad and Judith, who advised holding off on replies until the legal process moved further. A week after her return, Mom appeared unannounced at Dad's gate. The security system pinged, showing her luxury SUV on the monitor, her finger jabbing the intercom button repeatedly. "You don't have to face her," Dad said, his tone protective. "We can have security handle it." But avoiding it felt wrong. This confrontation was coming, and maybe it was needed for closure. "I'll talk to her," I decided, "but only with you and Judith there." Mom's face at the door was a storm of emotions, relief clashing with fury. Dressed in a designer sundress, sunglasses pushed into her flawless hair, she looked every bit the picture of upscale life. "Aria, thank goodness," she rushed forward for a hug. I stepped back instinctively, and her arms fell limp. "What's going on? Why did you leave? Why are you with him?" The word "him" dripped with poison, making me flinch. "Let's take this inside," Dad suggested, his voice calm yet unyielding. We moved to the living room, Judith joining as both lawyer and witness. Mom's confident front cracked as she glanced around, eyes widening at the elegant space, the subtle signs of wealth. "Ah, so that's it," she laughed bitterly. "He's bought you with all this luxury." "I knew it." "That's not why I'm here," I replied, fighting to keep my voice steady. "I'm here because you abandoned me at an airport. Because you lied about Dad for years. Because I found every letter and card you hid from me." Her face twisted, then set hard. "You rummaged through my private things? How dare you invade my privacy like that?" "They were addressed to me," I countered, my anger rising. "They were mine to begin with." "You're just 15, she snapped back. "Under my roof, everything was mine, including your mail. I was shielding you from his unreliability, his empty promises." Dad, who'd been watching quietly, finally spoke. "There were no empty promises, Karen. Only your calculated moves to wipe me out of Aria's life." "You have no right to criticize me," she hissed. "You can't imagine raising her alone while you were out building your fortune." "I sent child support faithfully every month," Dad said evenly, far beyond what the court required. "Money you squandered on yourself while telling Aria you were scraping by." Mom's cheeks flushed crimson. "That's a complete lie. I gave up my whole life for her. Including ditching her at an airport for a vacation with your new family," Judith interjected, her professional calm sharpening the blow. Mom froze, words failing her for a moment. Then she turned to me, eyes narrowing. "I didn't abandon you. I was teaching independence. If you just headed home like I said, we wouldn't be in this mess." Her revision of history tightened my chest with fury. "You dumped me in an international terminal with $200 and no key. You didn't mention going home until you were walking away. You ghosted my calls and texts. How is that teaching anything?" "You're distorting the facts," she insisted, but her conviction wavered. Dad leaned forward. "Karen, we have the airport security footage. Witness accounts from airline staff. And your post-abandonment texts, scrambling to rewrite what happened." The blood drained from her face. "You're plotting to steal my daughter and lock me up, after all we shared as a family." "This isn't vengeance," Judith clarified. "It's about what's best for Aria moving forward. She's chosen to live with her father, and given the evidence, the court will support that." Mom's facade shattered completely, tears cascading as she pleaded with me. "Aria, I admit I was wrong. But you can't pick him over me. We're family, we always have been." "We lost that when you prioritized Richard and his kids," I said quietly, my voice steady despite the ache. "Or maybe earlier, when the lies about Dad began." "It wasn't that way," she protested feebly. "Then make me understand," I pressed. Why bury Dad's letters? Why fake poverty with the support money? Why ditch me for a trip? She started to speak, then stopped, clearly unable to spin a believable excuse. At last, she murmured, "Richard suggested you stay behind. The resort was more for adults, and his kids fit that world." I was terrified of losing him. The raw truth stung worse than her deceptions. "You chose him over your own daughter." "I chose stability," she countered. "Being a single mom with nothing is hell." "Richard offered a way out." "He offered you a way out," I corrected. "I was the extra weight holding you back." Before she could reply, the door burst open. Richard stormed in, his face twisted in rage. "Karen, this is over. Get to the car now." Dad jumped up. "How did you bypass security?" Richard brushed him off, zeroing in on Mom. "I warned you not to come here. You're only worsening it. Our lawyer forbade contact." Mom seemed to deflate under his stare, her moment of vulnerability vanishing as she slipped back into submissive mode. "I just needed to see Aria." "You've seen her," he dismissed coldly. "Move." As she trailed after him, I called out, "Mom, is this really your life? Being treated like a child, while he sees me as a problem?" She hesitated, her face conflicted, but Richard seized her arm. "The car, Karen. Right now." Watching her back disappear through the door echoed the airport all over again. But this time, I stood firm. I wasn't the abandoned one anymore. In the wake of that clash, Dad's lawyers swiftly filed for a restraining order after Richard's second attempt to barge in. The court granted it the next day, along with temporary custody for Dad until the full hearing. Accepting the truth was brutal. Mom had picked her new world over me repeatedly, not once at the airport, but with every concealed letter and fabricated tale about Dad. The little girl who once felt like the heart of her mom's universe now faced the harsh fact that I'd been little more than a footnote. The following months were a roller coaster, demanding but reshaping me. Settling into life with Dad meant crafting fresh habits, setting personal limits, and building faith that he wouldn't vanish. Therapy with Dr. Eleanor Wilson became my anchor. She specialized in helping teens navigate abandonment scars. Our weekly chats were a safe haven to unpack the tangled feelings from Mom's deceit and the long years of emotional gains. "What you're going through is completely valid," Dr. Wilson reassured me in one grueling session. "Anger mingles with grief, relief with guilt. It's all part of the process. Healing doesn't follow a straight line, it zigs and zags." Her insights shifted my perspective. Mom's choices stemmed from her own deep-seated issues, not any flaw in me. It didn't wipe away the pain, but it lightened the load of blaming myself. "People who are truly whole don't discard their children," she explained. "Your mom's decisions reflect her own broken parts, not your worth or lovability." Dad signed me up for Westlake Academy, one of Seattle's elite private schools, starting my sophomore year. The switch was thrilling yet terrifying. After years as the misfit in Richard's household, trusting new people felt risky. But surprises came quickly. I bonded with Zoe and Aiden, book-loving twins who pulled me into their circle without hesitation. Haley, a talented artist, spotted my doodles and invited me to sketch with her during lunch, sharing tips on shading and composition. Inch by inch, I dropped my walls, letting these friends glimpse the authentic me, the girl who loved stories, dreamed big, and was finally healing. "You're different from when you first came here," Zoe remarked one sunny afternoon as we strolled home from school, backpacks slung over our shoulders. "Less guarded, more open." I paused, reflecting on her words. "I guess I'm learning that not everyone has an agenda," I said, the realization catching me off guard. It was true, trust was blooming, petal by petal. Reconnecting with Dad felt like a gentle dance, rediscovering steps we'd forgotten. We balanced learning our current selves with bridging the past. Some moments synced perfectly, like when he recalled my childhood fascination with stars and surprised me with a telescope on the deck. We'd spend evenings spotting constellations, his enthusiasm matching mine. But the separation scars showed in unexpected ways, awkward silences when a reference to my middle school years highlighted what he'd missed, reminding us both of the stolen time. "I wish I'd been there for your first day of middle school," Dad confessed one quiet evening, as we pored over photos I'd salvaged from Mom's house, snapshots of awkward braces and school events. "Your science fair wins, that first crush you must have had." His voice cracked slightly. "We can't reclaim those years," I said, flipping the script and comforting him for once. "But we've got right now, and all the tomorrows ahead." He squeezed my hand, his eyes glistening. "When did you become so wise beyond your years?" "Trauma has its silver linings," I joked lightly, my gallows humor signaling I was mending, one laugh at a time. 6 months into living with Dad, the court ruled in our favor, awarding him full legal custody. Mom, backed by Richard's high-priced attorney, resisted at first, dragging out arguments in hearings. But when Judith laid out the ironclad evidence, airport records, hidden correspondence, financial discrepancies, she caved. The judge mandated Mom repay the siphoned child support and outlined a visitation schedule, but only after I'd completed joint therapy sessions with her. In my eyes, it was lenient, but Dad pulled me aside later. "Maintaining some tie to her could help you long-term," he said gently. "You can hold on to anger without total cutoff. The decision's yours, I'll stand by it." I committed to the joint therapy, though those initial meetings were agony. Mom oscillated wildly, 1 minute sobbing apologies, the next subtly defending her choices. Her story evolved from outright denial to portraying the abandonment as a misstep to satisfy Richard, as if that softened the blow. "I was just trying to secure our future," she'd repeat like a mantra. The fear of being alone and penniless, it consumed me. "And in doing so, you left me alone and terrified at an airport," I fired back in one heated exchange, my voice steady but sharp. Gradually, I drew clear lines with Mom. No, I wouldn't move back, no matter her tearful vows of change. No pretending the past was a minor blip. No letting her revise history to soothe her conscience. These boundaries were rock solid, and over time, she began to respect them, or at least comply. Through it all, Dad remained a model of restraint, never uttering a harsh word about her despite ample reason. Curious, I asked him once. "Why so even-keeled?" His response lingered with me, "Hating her would only poison you, Aria. You're part of her, whether we acknowledge it or not. And for giving me you, I can overlook almost everything else." My first holiday season with Dad's extended family was a game-changer. Grandparents I vaguely recalled from toddler days, cousins whose names I had to relearn, they enveloped me in genuine warmth. Laughter filled the air during Christmas dinner, stories swapped freely, no undercurrents of exclusion. It was worlds apart from Richard's stiff gatherings, where I'd sat like an intruder, forcing smiles. My paternal grandma, a spirited 70-something with a twinkle in her eye, cornered me by the tree. "You've inherited your dad's toughness," she said, hugging me close, "and his kind heart. But that spark, that passion when you stand up for what's right? Honey, that's pure Aria." High school flew by, culminating in graduation 3 years later. Dad beamed from the front row as I stepped to the podium for my valedictorian speech, his pride radiating like sunlight. Mom attended, perched awkwardly behind him and his parents, her presence a nod to our fragile truce. Our bond had shifted to something civil, conversations honest but guarded, no illusions of closeness. It suited me, built on truth rather than her preferred veneer of perfection. College whisked me to the East Coast, where I majored in psychology and minored in family law. The miles from both parents gave me space to forge my identity, untethered from divorce shadows and teen turmoil. I unearthed passions, advocacy for kids in crisis, writing about resilience, that might have stayed buried in my old life. Classes challenged me, dorm friends became lifelines, and for the first time, I felt fully in control. Junior year brought an internship at a nonprofit aiding children of divorce. Drawing from my own chaos, I guided families through mediation, offering empathy born from experience. It sparked my career, designing programs for family courts to center kids' voices in custody battles, ensuring no child felt like collateral damage. Forgiveness for mom unfolded slowly, a path full of detours. Some days, recalling her casual shrug at the airport still knocked the wind out of me, rage bubbling up. Others, I viewed her through a lens of understanding, her flaws, fears, limited emotional toolkit, with kindness instead of resentment. Forgiveness isn't approving the hurt, my therapist had noted years before. It's refusing to let it dictate your tomorrow. On my 25th birthday, I penned a letter to Mom, capturing this evolved view. I've come to see that we all offer what's inside us, I wrote. Your ability for unconditional love was scarred long before my birth. Accepting that has liberated me from chasing what wasn't there. Her reply, mailed back promptly, showed rare introspection. You merited a better mother than I was capable of being. I regret it daily. At 28, my wedding day arrived. Dad escorted me down the aisle, his eyes misty with joy. From the instant you called from that airport, he whispered, placing my hand in my husband's, my only wish was your happiness and wholeness. Look at you now, radiant. Mom attended with her latest partner, Richard, a distant memory after their messy split. She behaved impeccably, no grabs for glory in my achievements, a quiet evolution in her. Building my own family, I wove in wisdom from both parents, a guide of do's and don'ts. Dad taught me enduring love's quiet strength and bravery in fresh starts post-loss. Mom illustrated self-reliance, power, and the pitfalls of prioritizing prestige over genuine ties. The airport episode, once the core of my identity, faded to a single chapter in a vast narrative, a turning point, yes, but not the finale. In a twist, that abandonment launched me toward growth, unearthing resilience I might have never tapped. I often ponder, what if Mom had included me in Bali? Would I linger in loops of her fickle affection? Miss Dad's steadfast support? Never claim my purpose? Such what-ifs lack resolution. Life doesn't reveal alternate timelines. One certainty remains, family transcends blood or paperwork. It's the daily decision to appear, cherish, and elevate each other. Dad embodied that. Mom's voids underscored it. If betrayal has scarred you from a protector's hand, remember, their shortcomings don't define your value. Limits they carry aren't your inheritance. A new family awaits in surprising corners, if heartbreak doesn't close your heart. Thanks for watching my story. If it hits home, please like and share it. Tell me in the comments if you've set boundaries with family who hurt you. Your story matters, and you're never as alone as you feel in your lowest moments.